Welcome to Gear Up with Big Iron.
If we ever have your sale, we're going to work as hard as we can to make sure it's the best sale we ever had.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Stock here along with Ron Stock, and we're Gearing Up, brought to you by Big Iron. We have got a tremendous podcast discussion today, Ron, because over the past couple weeks, the folks that have been going to the farm shows and attending events and our marketing teams, and because of this podcast, we're getting people responding with questions about the auction industry. So I have got in my hand a list of the top 10 questions, and we're going to talk about the things that have changed the auction industry over the past 20 years. And here's the very first question, was how has the auction industry evolved since we first started, and what were some of the most significant changes that you've witnessed?
Well, let's start talking first of all about household auctions. Salt and pepper shakers, dig the deep freeze out of the basement. I recently attended a household auction held by a nice gentleman here in Columbus, and it has changed. Remember how we used to sell us a little fan, an oscillating fan, bring $6 or $16, a nice one of them fans. Now, none of the new generation is buying used stuff. So literally the auctioneer stands on the trailer in Columbus, Nebraska. All right, guys, you know how we do it. We're going to open up the bid for $20, and if you don't give $20, we're selling the whole trailer. All right, who give 20 for choice? 20 for choice, not 22. Hup, 20, 25, 30, 35, 35. Sold choice. What do you want for $35? They does it a couple times. Nobody bids 20. Sell the whole rack for $20. Everything on the trailer. If you don't bid 20, we're moving on to the next rack. Boy, would that have made our life easy. So we sold every piece individually, and the seller wanted that. So people are not buying like they used to. I mean, there's some big company you can go to. I don't know how to use it, but you just dial something up and it comes right to your door. My wife knows how it works. So you're not buying used stuff anymore as far as household stuff goes. So that's out the window.
So can you describe what a typical auction looked like when you first entered the industry compared to now? And let's just talk about the agricultural sector.
Okay, so out on the farm, you did, I understand, we did a household sale and a farm sale all in the same day. So you'd sell this stuff out of the house in the morning and the stuff out in the yard in the afternoon. That was pretty commonplace. You did it all on the same day. And so, line it up. We still line up the sales. When we do a retirement sale, we still like to line it up, wash it, clean it, make it look pretty for inspection day. But basically open outcry auction, and you had to give everybody a number when they walked in, a bidder number, and then sell it, write down who bought what, and then they got to pay, and then help them load it. So it's changed drastically.
Well, a typical auction back in the 80s and 90s, if you had 450, 500 people show up, you had a heck of a crowd. We did have a handful of sales on some anomaly sales where they had, rare find pieces or low-hour stuff where you might get 1,000. I think the biggest sale we had was a Rasek sale over by North Bend or South.
Alice Chalmer Collection.
Alice Chalmer Tractor Collections. Larry passed away, very well-known person. So, reputation is what people supported the family there. But there was 2,000 people at that sale. But today, your typical online auction here on Big Iron, there'll be 70, 80,000 people watching from they're not on all at the same time. Throughout the day, there's an accumulation of that many people that have watched a portion of that sale. Maybe they submitted a maximum bid, or they went away, or else they log in and they see what stuff is at. They see what time something's selling. They log back out and they set their alarm to beep, 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 beep at 10 minutes after 10. And then they watch the item they're interested in selling. Now, that doesn't count for two, because what I'm talking, when we're talking about 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people, that's individual IP addresses, right? So if they logged in their phone, logged out, logged back, and that's still the same IP address. So there's just such an enormous amount of people watching, and they're from all over. So if that would be the change that I think it just shocks the heck out of me, is how the internet has opened up an auction forever. I remember the very first sale we broadcasted over the internet in real time with an open outcry sale was an Omaha Public Power District sale. It was in 2001. and we had 3 people on in 2001. 2 of them were some of the programmers, just making sure how it worked. And one was this guy from Blair. I called him up after the sale. I said, "How'd that work?" He says, "I'm just kind of a nerdy dude." And he says, "I thought it was kind of interesting. There was some latency, a little bit there, but he said, I think you guys are onto something." There was 3 people there. Fast forward 3 years later, we might have had 150 people on. Fast forward another 3 years later, 500 people on. And we quickly realized that a lot of people didn't want to be bothered when they were bidding stuff. They wanted that peace and quiet of nobody harassing them, as in their buddies saying, "What are you buying that for? What do you need another tractor for?" They didn't want that, so they started just staying home and bidding it on their computer. And then, we went to an online-only thing as an experiment to see what would happen. And we were shocked that we had 21-piece sale where we had 890 people registered to participate in it. So that's the internet then just took off from there. That was in 2009, by the way. So I would say that a typical auction looked like a nice lineup of machinery with 300-400 people there and a wonderful lunch stand. I still miss the pie, because these ladies would make this homemade pie. You'd had a homemade peach cobbler. My God, I could use a piece right now.
The Amish ladies in Kansas had the best food.
Oh, they were wonderful.
Unbelievable.
So I got another question. So then, I think we answered a couple questions here just with that last segment, because one question here is, how has technology, particularly online platforms, transformed the auction industry? Well, it's a time saver, folks. You know how many people are sitting in a lineup at the elevator delivering corn? Do you know how many people are at their accountant's office or at their banker's office or in their dentist's chair? They're bidding on machinery because they know exactly when it's going to sell, and the technology is so readily available in the palm of their hand. 70+% of all bids received come from a smartphone or a mobile device like an iPad.
And what about the diesel savings? You're not driving that piece of machinery 200 miles to a consignment auction, and you're not having to go follow it to the consignment auction to drive it back home. It stays right on the farmer's yard. So Big Iron, even though our company colors are yellow, Big Iron is very green.
Now here's a very interesting question. With the rise of the online auction space, how has the relationships between buyers and sellers and auctioneers changed?
Well, it's gotten less personal, because you're not talking to somebody eyeball to eyeball at the sale. But basically, the relationship, our claim to fame is that we always let the sellers talk to the buyers.
We've always published the seller's name so the buyer could contact them. So it might not be the eyeball to eyeball thing. And I think certain generations, Ron Stock, don't like to engage in asking questions. And the way our technology puts anything with a motor and a video on there, our open outcry sales, we'd come up to a tractor, we'd start it up, we'd shut it off, but we wouldn't pull it ahead, move it forward, take the hitch up and down, turn the PTO shaft on. We wouldn't do any of that stuff because there was liability factors there. So there's actually more information online right now that a buyer can make an educated decision with. Plus, you can still call the rep and the seller because their name and number. That's just what we do.
While it makes the seller so comfortable and the bidder so comfortable, the local rep knows the piece. He's seen the piece.
Our reps live in the areas in which they serve. So
that's
for those,
huge.
So for those that aren't listening or haven't heard this before or know much about the Big Iron model, is our reps, they have a geographic space, and in most cases, it's maybe a county or 2. Very few have 3. It depends on the density of the county.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a certain number of customers. If you've got a highly populated county, they just get one county because they have a lot of customers in a county.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to church and school in the county in which they serve, and most of the time they know the seller.
They want the sale to go well for the seller, because if it doesn't, they got to see that seller for the rest of their lives.
It leads to more business. How have the buyer demographics and behaviors shifted over the years? Are younger generations participating more or less in auctions?
I think this is a crucial point of why you should list and sell on Big Iron. With the social media becoming so busy, you got the Snapchat, you got the this, you got that. I don't even know them all. So there's a gazillion auctioneers starting up on there sell an auctioneer in a box, right? But they don't have the audience. Big Iron, if you ask somebody, a farmer, where he's going to find machinery, Big Iron is going to be one of the names they mention. And so as the world gets busier and busier with social media, is where Big Iron's really going to shine, because the buyers are going there for their machinery needs. And right now, listeners, name 3 other online auction companies where you can go to instantly and buy some farm machinery. You can't think of them because they're not advertising. And so, sellers, you need to be selling with a company that actually has an audience, an online audience.
Are younger buyers participating more or less in auctions, or are they just going to the retail store?
Seems like auctions are a major fad that started 10 years ago, and it looks like the younger buyers love auctions.
They love them because they do anything they can do on their phone. They'll do it. Anything they can just click one button and make it easy and convenient. They're not like our dad who said, Dad, first of all, said, I don't think that's ever going to work, because you got to go kick the tires, and you got to see if they greased it once in a while. You want to see if the oil's been changed.
Mm-hmm.
That was that generation.
1942, born 1942.
The young generation now, born in the 2000s, they just bid on it and buy it and whatever, make it work. They'll just make it work. So that, I think the younger generation is participating in a lot more auctions than somebody that would have been 25 years old 50 years ago. What trends are you seeing in types of items or assets that buyers are most interested in today compared to the past? My answer to that question is the typical farmer buys 3 pieces of machinery every year. Now, they may not be big high dollar items, but they also want to sell something because they're replacing it. If they buy a new baler, very seldom do they collect balers. We know they don't collect combines. They will collect tractors. They'll keep those. They might collect a pickup truck or something. They don't collect grain trailers. They don't collect rakes. So when they buy a new rake, they want to sell it. And we're with the huge, all the dealerships have combined. So one store now has got 38 locations. One brand has got 38 locations. They're not as apt to take in a lot of some of those items and trade anymore. In fact, they just say, come in with cash and we'll give you a heck of a good deal. So that is pushing a lot of these sellers to using the Big Iron platform, because they can go in with cash and they're probably going to get a better deal, in my opinion. Have you noticed an increase in international buyers and sellers, and how has this influenced the dynamics? Well, we just come back a couple months ago here from Farm Progress, and we had a sale for a John Deere dealer Van Wall implement during that farm show, and there were people there from Brazil and Australia bidding on the items. There was a sprayer sold to a guy in Quebec, Canada. There were several people in Mexico that were buying some of them smaller size tractors. They don't want the big stuff. What changes have you seen in the auction activity during different economic cycles? Okay, it's all synonymous with the price of corn, folks.
Right now, used machinery is going to be very, very valuable, because Mr. Farmer's not going to be able to buy the new stuff. All the brands are up 15 to 20% in price. So
For a brand new one.
For a brand new one. So the used machinery is really going to hold its value, folks. I talked to some farmers, a couple months ago at these farm shows, and last month and a half ago at Husker Harvest Days. And they said, we're going to sell before this stuff goes down. Well, folks, this good used machinery is not going down. You don't have to do a fire sale on it. It's going to hold its own. We're not going to be getting $32,000 for an average 4440 anymore, but they're still going to bring 20-some thousand, and they used to bring 18,000 5 years ago. So this machinery is like gold. If you want to sell it a piece at a time, we can do that. If you want to sell a complete retirement, we can do that. But good used machinery is holding its value.
Here's a great question, Ron Stock. If you could change one thing about how auctions are conducted today, what would it be and why?
If we knew of any changes that we could do today, we would be working towards those changes at Big Iron. We literally, as you know, Mark, sit every week and talk about what we could do to offer a better service to our buyer, a better service to our seller. And if we knew what they were, we would do them. So the best of the best is all we got to give you, folks. We're not in this thing for the fun of it. We're in it to provide a nice service.
If there was one thing that I would, and this is a highly debatable topic, what I'm going to talk about right now, is the licensing of the auction industry across the nation. certain states have licensing requirements to be in the auction profession. I think there's 26 states that require the auctioneer to hold a license and to be regulated. So, and the regulation is there to protect the public from all of the bad apples. And I've always thought, especially with the use of the internet, a lot of people jump into the space and you don't know what you're going to get. And we commend all of these auction companies that hold a high level of integrity. And if there was regulation in all the other states that didn't have them licensings, I think that would be a good thing to get rid of the bad apples. Because just jumping in and being a deceivious person, not being truthful and honest about what it is you're selling, it just gives everybody in the profession a bad name.
Well, I don't know how anybody would do it without a staff. We got a staff that gets us licensed and registered in all the states of the union, and then some to be able to do business. So I don't know if you're dealing with an auctioneer, make sure that they are following the rules when they have a buyer in Washington State, or they're following the rules when they have a buyer in Florida, or they're following the rules when they have a buyer in New Jersey or California, because there's rules to be followed. And I don't know how some of these auctioneers that don't have the staff get that done, and they're doing it legally.
Other than the United States, are we selling equipment in any other country?
We sell to other countries, but not really for other countries. That would be something if we run out of things to do here in the United States, which I don't think we're going to.
Well, we've got a lot of sales that are coming up, and the auction industry with the continuation of technology and the way the machinery has advanced and the way the new equipment continues to be built and increases in prices, that's going to help maintain the farmers' investments in their equipment lineup. We're always going to have to plant a crop. We're always going to have to truck the products. They're always going to need to use a bulldozer to fix something up. So all of that stuff is going to be highly sought after and valuable. I don't see anything falling off the face of the earth in terms of value. I think technology, and here at Big Iron, we are continually working. We're working on improvements and enhancements to our website all the time. We're trying to make sure that these foreign entities don't have access to any of the data. That's an ongoing thing that we're focused on all the time. I know for you folks, when you see all these new things on your screen that says just making sure that you're a human and stuff, just have patience with it. We're doing that for a particular reason. We have some of the brightest minds in the business protecting all of your data and trying to provide the best service possible. And that's just the world in which we live right now. We hopefully put some answers and some thoughts in some people's heads. And if you have more questions that you would like us to answer, please feel free to send those to us at podcast@bigiron.com. And we're going to be wrapping up this episode, and we know we got some holiday season coming right around the corner. We got Thanksgiving coming up soon. I'm thinking of turkey as we speak right now because, you only eat like that once or twice a year, and then I have to take a nap. But we'll be doing that, and we've got some of the biggest and best lineups of machinery going to be selling here in November and December. And keep watching all the latest technical advances we're going to be bringing here as Big Iron evolves in the auction space. We want to thank you. This is Mark Stock and Ron Stock here talking to you as we gear up, brought to you by Big Iron. Please like and share this podcast with all your friends as always, and we'll be talking to you next time. Thank you.